having visited with Ibrahim and listening to the conditions that he's in, which I've outlined, but also to him talking about waking up every morning to hearing prisoners being tortured, being beaten. He wakes up every morning to screams. The last time he was beaten himself was 2 weeks ago. He pointed in the room that we met him to a green pole, like a rubber pole, and he said that's what they use to beat us. It doesn't leave physical marks, but it hurts like hell. They beat him on the back. They beat him on the back of the legs. He's convinced that the public campaign is keeping him safe, that the prison wardens have more or less said this. Just because you're an Irish citizen, you think you're different, you think you're special. But other prisoners who are in the same case as them, other political prisoners, have had water thrown on them and then electric wires held to their skin. This hasn't happened to Ibrahim, and he's convinced that that's because there is a public campaign on his behalf. So what we've done is compiled a report talking about everything that Ibrahim has told us about the conditions, about the different approaches taken by other prisoners who he shared a cell with. He shared a cell with Peter Greste, who told him what the Australians were doing for him. And we're going to make that an affidavit that we're going to submit to Enda Kenny and to Charlie Flanagan. And we want to meet with them as soon as possible to go through that report. We have very serious concerns about his health, his mental health and his physical health, and we think that after 2 years the government strategy is not working, the strategy of a softly approach. It's 2 years now. This young man, who was a teenager at the time of his arrest, has been in arbitrary detention, and we don't have any indication of when he will be released or even when the trial will conclude. So we think it's now time for Charlie Flanagan to make that stand and to go out and to visit him and see for himself firsthand the type of conditions that this Irish citizen is in. This is a young Dublin lad who's found himself in very horrific conditions in prison. When we met with him last Saturday, he struggled to breathe. He spends 24 hours a day inside a cell that's 5 metres by 4 metres, and he shares that cell with 9 other prisoners. There is no shower. He's not permitted to have anything to wash himself with. All there is a tap and a hole in the wall for a toilet. As I said, he's a Dublin lad. I've met with his school teachers, both his primary principal and his science teacher in secondary school. They all talked about Ibrahim being a joker and the life and soul of the party. You certainly saw that come out in him, because we had an hour-long meeting as he relaxed, as he realised this was happening, that he was able to speak in such, I suppose, comfortable surroundings and to have physical contact with his sister. He held his sister's hand the whole time. He did the old Ibrahim started to come out. His sister said that's the first time she's seen him smile in 2 years. He joked about the prison uniforms and how there were hardly Abercrombie and Fitch, which I suppose is reflective of the fact that he's a young Dublin teenager. But it really helps him to know that people have his back here, and I think the more that we can get that message to him, the more it'll lift his spirits and keep him going, because as I said, I don't know how he's doing it. I don't think I would cope under this circumstances he's under. His trial has been postponed now 10 times. We were outside the courtroom for the last trial hearing. We were not permitted entry, but neither were the family. There's 493 people being tried at the same time with Ibrahim. So there were lots of families outside the prison. And it's that arbitrary nature of the judicial process. So today the judge decided, no, we're not going to have the family in the courtroom. A month ago, the family were allowed into the courtroom. We handed a letter in to the judge asking that we be allowed to attend as a member of the European Parliament, as Dara Mackin, as his legal representative in Ireland. We were told by the lawyer who handed that letter to the judge that the judge said, I don't feel like letting them in today. So that's the type of judicial process that you're talking about. There's no possibility that Ibrahim will ever have a fair trial. We sought legal advice from many different human rights lawyers in Cairo who met with us confidentially. All of them echoed what we've been saying, is that the only way that Ibrahim will get out of prison in Egypt is if there's a very public and open campaign calling for his release. So we're saying to the Irish government, you've tried this strategy for 2 years, it hasn't worked. We need you now to do like what Barack Obama did with Mohammed Sultan, threatening sanctions, like what Tony Abbott did with Peter Greste. You need to be open, you need to be vocal in saying that we want our boy back home.